We are back with another
Hey!
week of AI fun and learning.
week week of AI fun and learning. Yes, here we go. So yes, we are back for what is this, fourth week now? I think this is our fourth week back here in the ClickFunnels official group, teaching stuff about AI, talking about AI, and just let everybody know we are live in the group now at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays and Fridays. It had been 3 p.m. Eastern. We got bumped out to 4 p.m. because Russell is going live for half an hour to an hour every afternoon at this point here. So we're going to probably be here for a while consistently at this time. And then who knows? We might get moved again. We might move to the morning on our own. We don't know yet. We're just testing everything out right now. But just remember, put it in your calendars, Mondays, Fridays, right now, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you tell all your friends and your families and your coworkers and everyone else who wants to learn about AI to just jump in here. And now I'm going to turn it over to Madison because she's in charge of the training today. So let her go.
Yes, so today we're going to deep dive into 11 labs, which I think a lot of people maybe are only scratching the surface on. I know I was one of those people until I was kind of forced to dive deeper in it because it wasn't really doing what I wanted it to do. And so when I was kind of telling Dan about some of this stuff, he's like, I didn't even know it could do that. So we're like, let's do a deep dive training into it. We're also going to get a little bit into ChatGPT in terms of having it help us to create that script that we're going to use in 11 Labs. If you don't know what 11 Labs is, it is a text-to-speech synthesis. Big words, right? It takes text and it makes voice. Let's say, like 10,000 foot view. It takes your text, it makes a voice. And it has tons of different voices you could choose from. A lot of, I think the problem with AI is this roboticness in these voices. And so that's the really cool thing I think 11 Labs has brought is a lot more of the more natural sounding based on how a lot of people do these. And I will show you, so a little teaser what we're going to talk about, using the generalized voice, how to make it not sound so robotic, how to clone your own voice or your friend's voice and or your co-host's voice, I should say, and then how to also dub those into different languages. So that's kind of the 10,000 foot view of what we're going to cover today. And it's going to be about 40 minutes long. And of course, the replays will be here in the group. Drop any questions. And if we have time at the end, we will answer questions.
So let me just say one thing here is so again, we got to take this always back to marketing. How does this fit in with marketing, which of course is what you use ClickFunnels to do is your marketing. And so you let's say you don't want to be on camera. And so you want to shoot a video sales letter, or even a webinar. You can do something like that. You want to do the perfect webinar. You can write out the script yourself. You can use funnel scripts to write out the script. You can have ChatGPT help you write out the scripts for any type of a video. You could do it for challenges. You could do it for product launch formulas, anything like that. Again, if you don't want to be on camera, if you have a very strong accent, you don't want to be using your voice, something like that, you can write out all the text and then run it through 11 Labs, and it will create the audio for you. And then, I mean, with some other tools, you could probably then take that audio once it is done and then actually have it actually put out all the slide deck for you as well. I know I've seen that in some software as well, where it'll give you the whole slide deck when you're done with it too. So there's all kinds of possibilities here, but this is just one of the tools you can use to fit together to create your marketing campaign for you.
And I think that's probably a good point. And maybe that's something like that we do in a couple weeks is like since we're going to give people that 10,000 foot view of the software, is like, could we create the perfect webinar in like a 5-minute format and show people like, hey, this is how you use this slide deck software to come through. This is how you would pull in Midjourney. This is how you pull in 11 Labs. So like people could, no excuses anymore, right? There's no excuses that you cannot do this stuff and build high level production and what you normally would pay a voice actor to have to create for you, especially when we talk deep dive into 11 Labs.
And as we showed a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I think on Friday, how you can then also take any video you create and then dub that into different languages too. So you could
Yes.
create a perfect webinar using funnel scripts or something like that. You can create the perfect webinar, have 11 labs do the voices, and then turn those voices into multiple different languages. Now, does 11 Labs do the multiple languages, or do
Yes.
you, okay, it does it as well? Because you could also use HeyGen, and I'm sure there's probably other AI tools out there right now as well.
It doesn't dub the voices well, or the lips part of it. I don't think it has that technology in it, but the audio and to make it sound like you and your speech patterns very, very well on it. But it looks like that idea of creating the perfect webinar, I think it's Nita, if I'm saying it wrong. I'm so sorry. I'm terrible with names. She says she loves the idea for us introverts, and Chico's with us. He says 100%. So maybe that is something that we will work towards building. So if you guys, if that's something you're interested in, drop it in the comments. Let us know that you want us to more come up with more introverted ways to do marketing. Or
Well, and there's one thing I've never said to you, I don't think, Madison, is that I have been, not very well, but I have been working on a bot to actually create the 5-minute webinars for us. So I have the first part of it done, haven't done the 5-minute webinar part. So I have the ability to have it create whatever content I want, but I have not programmed it directly to do a 5-minute webinar and giving it the whole layout and everything. So maybe you're right. Maybe 2 weeks from now we do that, and that will force me to have to finish that bot so we can do it, and then just show how you can just go from one AI tool to the next AI tool to the next AI tool and just spit this thing out in multiple languages. That would be a pretty cool example.
yeah, and we will say the caveat to it is like if you're gonna do the whole multiple language thing to try to tap into other markets, you're also gonna have to deal with the customer service side of things. So don't think that you're gonna be able to go out there, you're gonna hack all of Russell's stuff, you're gonna put it in Chinese, and now you're gonna make $1 million, right? Because you're still gonna have to service those people who have questions who are most likely just gonna speak Chinese.
Yeah, if they're watching in Chinese, they probably speak Chinese, unless they're trying to
Yes.
learn how to speak Chinese. I don't know. So, either way, why don't we move forward here, roll the video, and then we'll take some Q&A at the end if we got any questions.
Sounds good.
Today we are going to dive into 11 Labs, which is a speech synthesis, meaning this is text to speech, which is really cool for a number of things. Say you want to create a completely faceless video, right? But you don't want to have it be your voice, or maybe you want it to read a book. Maybe you do even want it to read in your voice. Those are going to be some of the things that we're going to cover today in this video. But to start with, we're going to bounce over to ChatGPT, which I have open right here. And I'm going to say, need you to write me a short, let's say 45-second video script about a marketer who learns about So I said, I want you to write me a short video script about a marketer who learns about ClickFunnels and it changes their business. I want this to be in first person. So as you can see here, it is starting to spit this out for me. So I'm just going to take and start to copy this over here to 11 Labs. Now we do not want any of the initial we do not want the thing where it says scene 1 or scene 2 or marketer voiceover, right? So one of the ways we can do this is obviously we can just come copy and paste all of this. Bring this over here. Paste this in. All right, now that I have this pasted in, I would just come through, and I want to actually get rid of the quotation marks. I want to get rid of everything but just the words that I want said. So I'm going to go through, and for time, I'm going to delete all these, and then we'll come back when those are all gone. All right, now I've come through, I have gotten rid of all of anything extra in here, right? I simply just want the words that somebody would say. Now what I'm going to do is I have all these different voice settings down here. So I have all of these different people that I can actually choose. So let's listen to a few of them.
Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will
be here now. Be someplace else later. Is that
love all, trust a few, do wrong to none. The world is round, and the place which may seem like the end may also be the beginning.
So as you guys can see, tons of different options here. Let's actually run through a few of these. I'm going to actually just cut down this text just so we save some time and we save some credits here. All right, as you guys can see, I have just come through. I've just left just the top paragraph. And what we're going to do is I'm going to switch it so you guys can hear, and we'll run this with Rachel and maybe a couple different people.
So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hit generate speech.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed, but despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze. Until I discovered ClickFunnels.
Okay, so now let's try it. We're going to go down to these different voices. Let's just choose Chris.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed, but despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze until I discovered ClickFunnels.
All right, so this right here is pretty much the simplest interface that they have. I'm going to come over here to advanced. And now with advanced, I have a lot more features here. I have the different model. It really depends on which voice you choose in terms of which model is best for it. Obviously I have a history over here. I also have all of these different little sliders that I can change. These change the more, think about if it's the standard, if I go back to default settings, this is going to be pretty much the most reliable version of the voice. Now, I could get really crazy and I could add a lot more variables to it. I could change all these different sliders, right? Similarity, low, and this will actually change the way that this sounds with the same exact text.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed. But despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze. Until I discovered ClickFunnels.
So as you guys can see, that added a lot more difference to it, right? There was tons of different, it didn't sound as good. Now, I will tell you that there is a lot of these voices. Let's go over to voices over here on the side. And as you can see, I can generate a cloned voice. We're going to come back to that. I can also go over here to the voice library. Now, so this voice has a notice period of 90 days. If the voice model decides to remove the voice, it will immediately disappear. Okay, that's cool, right? We can go in here and we can see all of these different voices. Now, these are voices that people have created. I find that these voices seem to work a little bit better. So let's listen to a few of them.
Hey there, it's Christy Carlson Romano. You might recognize me from Disney's iconic animated series Kim Possible, or from popular TV shows like Even Stevens. Beyond the screen, I've graced the Broadway stage as Belle in Beauty and the Beast, released.
So I don't know, obviously we have an aspect of this that would really make it so that we don't want to steal somebody else's voice. So I don't know like if this has been like done with her, or I would imagine it's been done in combination so that there is approval to it. Now, obviously, it says this is only available for Starter Plus users. So obviously, if you're on the free plan, which I guess we'll go to right now, we'll talk about, and you can create your own voices and make money from them as well. So let's go over here to look at our plans. You can see starter is $5 a month. Sometimes there is a deal for this, or you can go with the creator, which is $11 a month. It gives you about 2 hours of audio. So I kind of want to play around with that more premium voice. So hold on 1 minute. Let me subscribe. So now I'm back. I have been subscribed. I am good to go. I should be able to go back to voices, voice library. Now I should be able to utilize this voice. Okay, so this one, interestingly enough, does actually require you to submit it. So that is something new. That is not something I've seen. Obviously, must be really utilizing the real person's voice, which brings up a valid point about cloning people's voices and things like that. But as we can see, we have tons of other people that we can actually go through here and listen to. So let's listen to a few of them.
We can do no great things, only small things with great love.
So as you guys can see, it definitely gives you a little bit of sample. You'll see that a lot of these, they kind of stick with the same amount of, kind of the same script, right? So you'll notice you'll hear a lot of the same kind of snippet said in different voices, which really helps you to really get a good understanding of which is the voice you want to use. So let's listen to a few of these.
Don't smother each other. No one can grow in the...
Right? We hear lots of difference in these voices.
You tell the others. Tell them that this is the voice of a serial killer. One so evil.
Probably don't want that to promote ClickFunnels, right?
The greatest way to live with honor in this world is to be what we pretend to be. The greatest...
Right, and if you wanted to hear it again, you can obviously just come down here to the play button.
way to live with honor in this world.
It plays it again. We got...
Existir es cambiar. Cambiar es madurar.
Right, different accents.
The U.S. Embassy said staff had been told not to travel out.
Right, as you can see, there are hundreds of these, maybe even thousands of these. So if you're like, okay, but how in the world do I actually go through and find the one that I want? Well, I suggest you utilize these filters up at the top. I like to use narrative story, and you can also play a character sometime. Obviously, if you uncheck these, we get different ones. Advertisement, informational, educational. So I like narrative and story. I can also go over here to these filters, and I can go categories, right? Professional. I can go gender, female, age, young. That's right, starting to narrow these people down. Now I can also go language, which is new. So I'm actually going to stick with English and accent. Let's say Boston. Okay, so no match this. That's okay. I can take maybe a couple of these off. So not everyone may fit. Let's see. None under Boston. None under Chicago. I may actually have to check all of these. These Midwest, Southwest, Northeast, these are all new. So just so you know, if I go to Australian, okay, go to Australian, we uncheck those. We can see we start to see more of them coming through here. So Northeast, Midwest, nope, still none. One in New York.
It is also a vast repository of nutrients.
Don't know that that's what I would really say New York accent is. Doesn't sound like it to me. But yeah, I can go British, obviously. We had a lot of them. Indian, Irish.
Whatever happens, take responsibility. Nature is a mutable cloud, which is always and never the same.
So if you just gotta come through here and play with the filters that you want. Obviously, we've got to select English before we go to accents. Got a few Scottish.
Whether you're a seasoned vet or just starting out, this series will guide you through every...
So I think if you really had a unique accent that you wanted, you definitely want to make sure that you do not select any of these previous filters. Now, if there wasn't an accent you wanted, say you just want somebody that has an American accent, then we can come down here, because that's obviously a much bigger pool of people. We can come through here where we can go gender, female, we can go young.
Trust only movement. Life happens at the level of a... Believe in yourself and all that you are.
Right, as you can see, tons of different
Love
options.
cures people, both the ones who give it and the one.
So the other thing that I really want to pay attention to and show you guys is you guys can see these numbers over here. 65 million characters of audio generated.
We can see, 4.9 million, 1,500 users using it, 1,200 users. This kind of gives you an idea of how many people are using the voice, right? Obviously, if the voice isn't good, they're probably not going to use it, right? Would make sense, right? If the voice isn't consistent or for whatever reason. So just like as you're going through, see, there's 2 users, right? There's only 1,000 characters generated. Our ClickFunnels story is probably I think it is almost 1,000 characters. So that means that was ran like one time, right? This has maybe been used like a couple times. Now, you might be asking, how do I add one of these to my library? Well, that's pretty simple, right? So let's actually go through and let's see if we can find something pretty unique. So let's go with Australian. This is like a old female Australian accent.
He that is giddy thinks the world turns round.
It's okay.
We make our own fortunes, and we call them fate.
Efficiency is doing things right.
The world is round, and the place which may seem like the end may also be the beginning.
Just trust yourself. Then you will know how.
All right, I think I'm going to go with Tessa. So all I got to do is go add to my voice lab, and I click add voice. And hit finish. Maybe I'm also going to want to go through and do like a British male. And I'd go through and I'd listen to a few of these. I'll be like, okay, I like this one. I also like this one. And just because I know, I also do like Paddington. I think that is a pretty good voice. Okay, so now that I have these different voices, let's go back over to what we were working on, which is under speech. So now I have our ClickFunnels script in here. I'm going to click the little voices down below. And now you can see the voices that are generated. So we got Sir Linus, and we're going to generate this one and hear how this.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed. But despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze, until I discovered ClickFunnels.
So I think that these generated voices are significantly better than the out-of-the-box voices you get with 11 Labs. Might just be my personal preference on that, but let's also try Paddington.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed.
But despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze. Until I discovered ClickFunnels as a digital marketer.
So at any point, if you want to hear it again, you're just going to click the play button down here. You can also download it, right? Pretty simple. And I can view our whole history, so we can listen over here and hear the difference to them.
As a digital marketer, I thought...
Right?
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed.
Remember, that's the one we messed with the slider settings on?
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed, but...
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed.
And it comes down here and it's actually going to show you the different name of the voice. So maybe you're at this point and you're like, that just doesn't sound really like the normal person would talk, right? So how in the world do we fix that?
Well, there is a really cool thing inside 11 Labs that not a lot of people know about, which is you can add in a syntax like this. And you can change it to 0.1 of a second. So this is, you can also break this apart in lines. And I might want to say click funnels. I might not want to add the ... at the end. I come through, I'm going to add a little bit of a bigger break to it. And now I'm going to go back and render this again with our friend Paddington.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed. But despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze until I discovered ClickFunnels.
Now, obviously, as you guys can see, like I forced the break here, and I might also need to add in these other spots, right? Just kind of where you would think normally, like you would take a pause, right? And you can make this as much up to, 10, 20, 30 seconds, right? But this is, as we generate this again, this is kind of one way we can force the AI to make those pauses.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed. But despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze until I discovered ClickFunnels.
So as you guys can see, we're starting to get a lot more natural pauses into it. Now, I find sometimes this is slightly more challenging to do, so why don't we have AI help us with this? So I'm going to actually come over here and I'm going to take the script that I have and I'm going to say, I want you to So just for copy and paste sake, I just wanted to come over here and grab the correct syntax, which is arrow break time equals with the tenths of a second, just like you would kind of write normal code. And so here's my syntax. I'll paste that in, and I'm going to have it rewrite this. I'm also going to have to take the voiceover out of this again, obviously. But as you can see, I'm utilizing ChatGPT to actually put these in the pauses for me. Now, you might just be able to go through, listen to it, go, all right, I want to pause there, or I want to do something like whatever, right? Now, I'm actually going to, when we come back, we're going to do something kind of cool with this. All right, so now we're going to come back here, and obviously we got to go do the same thing again where we have to copy and paste and remove all of our quotations, right? We want simply just the text that somebody would say. And I'm actually going to get rid of as well this ... up there. Anything like that, anything like any type of punctuation. Obviously, if I play this right now, I got rid of that. Marketer speaking to camera. It's going to say that. It's going to say marketer speaking to camera, right? I also got to get rid of the scenes. It's because it is going to say that as well. Just to know that punctuation plays a giant role in this. So let's go through and render this whole thing as, I guess we could use Paddington, or let's try Tessa this time.
Digital mark.
Okay, it started to play too soon, so here we go. Let's try it now.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed. But despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze. Until I discovered ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels wasn't just another tool. It was a revelation. It simplified my marketing by guiding my potential customers through a clear and concise funnel, turning visitors into buyers with ease. Setting up my first funnel was a breeze. I crafted targeted landing pages, set up email automations, and even added upsells, all within a single platform. In no time, I saw dramatic improvements. My engagement skyrocketed, and sales were higher than ever. ClickFunnels didn't just change my business. It changed my entire approach to online marketing. If you're struggling to convert leads, give ClickFunnels a try. It's more than a tool. It's a game changer for your business. With ClickFunnels, I'm not just staying afloat. I'm soaring. With ClickFunnels, I'm not.
So for somehow we got that in there twice, which is okay. Now, the only thing I wanted to change in here is I'm going to add a break right here. Sometimes there is not enough with the punctuation. So I'm going to hit generate again. Any changes like that, you got to come through and generate again.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed. But despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze. Until I discovered ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels wasn't just another tool. It was a revelation. It simplified my marketing by guiding my...
So one thing I really want you guys to notice here is sometimes the first pass through will not be as great. It's kind of like with Midjourney, right? When you have to upscale something, sometimes the first pass on 11 labs might be a little clunky, but when you come back through and play it again, it sounds a lot smoother.
So I can go over here and just hit play.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed. But despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze. Until I discovered ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels wasn't just another tool. It was a revelation. It simplified my marketing by guiding my potential customers through a clear and concise...
So at the same time, I can come down here and I can change it back to this one, hit generate speech again, and it will now sound like somebody else.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed. But despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze. Until I discovered ClickFunnels. ClickFunnel.
as you guys can see, we have two completely different voices here that we could both download, we could use in a video, we could do tons of different things like that. But what if you wanted to actually clone your own voice? Well, that's what I'm going to do next. Alrighty, so what I have done is I have taken our good friend Mr. Dan Havey, and I have gone through and downloaded one of his YouTube videos. So what I'm going to go through is I'm going to say instant voice cloning. And I would say Ninja Dan. I'm going to go over here and grab from my desktop. Right, I got this sample is how to build a simple hamburger bun menu for desktop using native elements and custom code inside ClickFunnels. Right? And obviously you want to confirm you have the rights, and obviously we're not going to actually use this for anything, and we will delete it after this example is done. I'm going to go add voice. And as you guys can see, I have Ninja Dan right here. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to say use. And now we are back in our speech synthesis. And as you guys can see, we have all of our text is still there. So let's hit generate. And this might take a slight bit longer to generate just because of the voice.
As a digital marketer, I thought I had all the tools I needed. But despite everything, converting leads into sales felt like navigating through a maze until I discovered ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels wasn't just another tool, it was a revelation. It simplified my marketing by guiding my potential customers through a clear and concise funnel, turning visitors into buyers with ease. Setting up my first funnel was a breeze. I crafted targeted landing pages, set up email automations, and even added upsells, all within a single platform. In no time, I saw dramatic improvements. My engagement skyrocketed and sales were higher than ever. ClickFunnels didn't just change my business, it changed my entire approach to online marketing. If you're struggling to convert leads, give ClickFunnels a try. It's more than a tool. It's a game changer for your business. With ClickFunnels, I'm not just staying afloat, I'm soaring.
Now, as you guys can tell, Dan's normal speech pattern would have more breaks in it, right? As you guys can see, a lot more run-on sentences. You would want to go through and be like, okay, this is where this person would take a pause. But right, remember, we got to have the rights to do this. So I think really the best way to do this is with your own voice to help you maybe if you do fear going live. You can utilize something like this to use a screen share, right? And just utilize the voice. But like I said, use this with ease. Maybe the thing you would want to do is if you wanted to come through and write your own audiobook. You didn't want to actually sit there and read it, right? You'd want to come through. And the cool thing with 11 Labs is there's this specific area called projects. And projects is really where you want to take longer form content. This is kind of like you want to create books, right? You can bring characters to life. You can fine tune with punctuation, tons of different resources here. We're not going to get into this today because you do have to have creator tier to use this. I will say, here's one thing. Know that sometimes AI in 11 Labs, a tier and a tear, it doesn't know the difference between. So you go through and it's going to read, maybe you say tear and it's going to read it as tier. So some things you do have to go through and spell phonetically. Now, another thing you can do is you can actually take your social media content and you can use English and say the target language you want is Chinese. So I'm going to come over. I think, does it have to be a video? So I'm actually going to grab a YouTube link. So we're going to see if it will actually take a YouTube short link. And you guys can see it is downloading it, and dubbing is in progress. It's going to need to take my behind the scenes look at the power of fishbowl funnel and turn it into Chinese. So I'm going to pause the video and we will be back when it is ready. So in real time, that took about enough time for me to have a drink of my Diet Coke and empty my emails. So it didn't take terribly long. It is a short video. Obviously, the longer the video that you're trying to dub, the longer this whole process is going to take. So let's actually hear what it says. I don't speak Chinese, so I'm going to have no idea if it is right or not.
所以我想给你展示一下浴缸漏斗的强大力量的幕后情况。这一个是我的朋友哈利亚，这是他的账户。所以我想给你展示一下浴缸漏斗的强大力量的幕后情况。这一个是我的朋友哈利亚，这是他的账户。
So I actually downloaded it because I think we might have a little bit of an issue with playback on it. So just know that this is not like when we demonstrated Heijen in the dubbing of it. This is just going to dub the voice. So the mouth, I'm not expecting to go in, to be as good as it was on Heijen. So just so you know that.
所以我想给你展示一下浴缸漏斗的强大力量的幕后情况。这一个是我的朋友哈利亚，这是他的账户。如你所见，根据其1月通过他的浴缸漏斗，他获得了超过2100个选择加入。And your doing board 都等本不完的经过费。第一可以参加我们的浴缸漏斗挑战，这是一个免费的5天挑战，你可以在其中建设。
这是为了你自己的
业务，所以去 fishbowlfunnelchallenge.com 领取你的
免费通行证。
So that one is not the best example, but as you can see, I do still have the ability to dub or video translate, replacing the original audio with a new language. And it did kind of stick with the same speech pattern that I had, or that I do have. I will say it, obviously, the resolution, the quality of it does all play into a role. I think that there may have been a little bit of background audio when it came to the video, right, in the background. One other last thing I want to say is we go back here to voices. We go back to Ninja Dan. Thought that I used to be able to come over here and play around with the sliders of it, but I think all of that has now moved on to speech synthesis part of it. And then what if you really wanted something said in a way that the voice you use, the generated voice, could actually mimic something? So let's actually now, we're going to play around with speech to speech. So let me grab an audio file. So what I have done is I have taken just a little clip off of that same video that we had of Dan, and needs to be upload audio. Let's try it this way. Oh, my desktop. And it needs to be, I think it needs to be an MP3, not an MP4. So hold on 1 minute. All right, so what I had to do is I just had to take that into Premiere Pro and export it as a MP3, not an for A or whatever it did. So now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to generate speech, but I want this to actually generate with a different speech than Ninja Dan. So let's go with a British narrator. So what it's going to do is it is going to take what Dan said in the video, which is the clip that we used previously, and it is going to replicate it with this other voice.
Text block down here, anything you want it to be. So in this case here, I just used a bullet list. I figured that was as good as anything else, because inside the bullet list, what you can do is you can just treat it like any other text element. So we can come in and let's say we want to hyperlink this first one, and we do that and we type in whatever URL you may want them to go to. If they
Now, as you guys can see, it took that voice of Paddington and it incorporated Dan's speech patterns. So this is what Paddington sounds like.
I'm not interested in age. People who tell me their age are silly.
Right? And then this is like Paddington combo Dan.
Text block down here.
That's actual Dan. And then we go over here. We got maybe we might have to generate it again.
Text block down here, anything you want it to be. So in this case here, I just used a bullet list. I figured that was as good as anything else because.
So as you guys can see, it's kind of incorporated what Dan sounds like into this voice, into that exact speech pattern or that exact clip. So what it's doing is it's taking these voices and putting it on that audio file. So if we go with this one, which was our mature Australian voice, and we generate this one, we'll hear that same audio snippet, but now with a different voice.
Text block down here, anything you want it to be. So in this case here, I just used a bullet list. I figured that was as good as anything else because inside the bullet list, what you can do is you can just treat it like any other text element. So we can come in and let's say we want to hyperlink this first one, and we do that and we type in whatever URL you may want them to go to. If they
So I will say a couple caveats with this is if you're trying to get a specific word said or a specific sentence or something said in a specific way, be very, very careful when it comes to accents and dialects, because this speech, this AI generated speech, will take on those characteristics. So if you're trying to get your character doesn't have any parts of a Texas accent, a Texas twang to it at all, then don't go on YouTube and grab a clip from somebody who has a strong Texas accent if you do not want that in your exact the speech that you're going to generate. So I think for right now, that is a very good 10,000 foot view of 11 labs, getting into some stuff that is very specific, very unique. Maybe in another lesson, we'll actually dive into projects a little more. But the keys for 11 labs really comes down to utilizing these time breaks. Definitely, how are you going to line things out? You know, you can break these apart, and that's going to change the way it's done. You can add, you know, different punctuation at the end. Capitals change the way things sound. It really is going through here and finding a voice that you like, playing around with different aspects of pauses and punctuation and line breaks so that you can really get a really awesome voice that does sound natural that sounds normal. I think that really comes down to these line breaks, these break times, these pauses that we put into, utilizing AI to help you to come up with that. But also, you can hear something, you can listen to something and go, I think that needs a break there, or I think that needs a pause there. I will say, what I normally do in terms of like an SOP is any break inside of a sentence is a 1/10 of a second break. Any break where we're going through and maybe we're going between paragraphs, I use about a 3.3 break, so 3/10 of a second. Those are kind of my SOPs that I use. So like right here, let me just copy this. I would put a 0.3 here. And really it just comes to however you set up as your practice and how you kind of just keep with the same pattern of it. And then utilize, that one's not the end of a sentence. Just kind of keep with the same thing. Find what works for you. Copy it down. Remember it. Write it down. Whatever you got to do to really develop what you feel like is the best synthesized speech that you can utilize in training videos or client videos or simply your own social media. Especially if maybe you want to do something faceless or you don't want to use your voice or whatever it is. Really just, play around with this, play around with these break times, figure out where you think things need to be, and then figure out what you like best. What do you think sounds the best? 1/10 of a second, 2/10 of a second, 3/10 of a second, whatever it is. Just kind of go through this process and let us know what you guys create.
What did you think of that, Dan? Did you get some notes? Are you going to clone yourself or just have me send it over?
Well, I'm already perfect, so I don't need to clone myself. So, but one thing I wanted to do while you were playing my voice was to grab a hold of those little slider bars and see if we could make it sound a little bit more like me. But the thing I probably saw more than anything else is when you were playing the actual words that I did in my video and put somebody else's voice on it, that's where the voices sounded most natural. And I think as I'm like listening to that going, okay, part of the reason why the other ones don't sound that natural is because, they're long, drawn on, complicated sentences where most people don't talk like that. We just kind of, basically we just drone on without any clear speech pattern, any clear use of the English language, the proper English language that your English teacher would approve of. We just kind of ramble on. And so if there's a way that we could find to kind of mash that together, maybe we train the ChatGPT bot to speak more like people would speak on a live event, not like they're reading a book or something. So speak more naturally like that, and then overlay the voice on it. I think it's going to sound much better.
Yeah, and I think like the problem with AI, like the project we're working on, is a lot of medical terms, right? And for example, the facet joint, which is in your back, and it wants to say faucet, right? And there's a lot of different people that have different ways of saying that. And so like this speech to speech is something that is relatively new inside of 11 Labs. And that's something where maybe if you're self-conscious about your voice, you say the perfect webinar 5 minutes, and then you utilize this speech to speech so that it's that faceless, it's somebody else's voice if you have that, if you're self-conscious about that.
Well, yeah, so I'd be curious to see how that would work. So let's say somebody has a really thick accent, and so they don't really want to do it live, but could they still speak it even with their accent? Could they speak it and then dub another voice over the top of it? I would be curious to know how that would come out, or would it pick up the original accent?
I know when we tried it, because like for that example of the facet joint is I said, well, maybe I can just grab it off YouTube. And that was where it was a doctor in Texas. And it took on, although we used a female voice, and maybe we'll show this on Friday because I just don't have the clip with me. It adapted that Texas accent to it and was like, you know, hi, I'm Dr. Smith, and today we're going to talk about, and it was the AI that we use for the whole project that is very, I would say, nondescript American, right? Could be West Coast, East Coast, middle of the country, no real accent, nothing really to distinguish where they're at. And that voice adapted to that accent and took on those little characteristics of that clip that I uploaded from YouTube, or I grabbed.
Yeah, it does, because I have the Midwestern radio or TV broadcaster accent, which is basically non-existent, and so you couldn't really hear it in mine. But yeah, we should test that. Is find somebody with a strong accent, a video of them, overlay Paddington onto it, and see what it comes up with. But there's also one thing I will say is A, there's other tools that do this, and B, this is the worst it's going to get. You're going to hear us say that probably every week. This is the worst it's going to get. So who knows? 11 Labs could have an update next week and have cleared up half the problems that we're seeing this year and make it almost indistinguishable from somebody's actual voice.
Yeah, and I think like if you look at it from where it was a year ago till now, I mean, I know like even a year ago when I first discovered it, I tried to dub the neighbor's voice to kind of prank him, right? Because I had no other use for it other than like prank audio clips. And it got pretty close. But, and here's the one key thing with 11, specifically 11 Labs, is how long of a text chunk. So are you doing like 3 paragraphs in one? It will kind of get lost. And when it gets lost, it kind of says crazy things and loses track. And specifically early on, the voice, when you cloned it, really got crazy with it. You know, it got crazy if it was a really long thing. And so I don't remember if I said it in the video or not, but definitely break those chunks of text up. I do no more than 2 sentences in a paragraph at the most, because you can always come in and video with like Premiere Pro and cut out those gaps or those pauses.
Well, yeah, you can take your audio into many, many different audio tools and piece it together. You can increase the gaps in between where you want a little bit more pause if you still as you're fine tuning it. And then I would guess, I don't know this for sure, but because I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but there's probably audio upresers, just like we got image upresing and video upresing. Why wouldn't there be an audio upreser as well that you can put it in there and the AI will go through and say, okay, the AI will know that this was created by AI and it will smooth it out and make it more like human speech. But I think again, going back to it, I think the beginning phase here is to tell the chatbot to make it more like human conversational speech instead of like written speech for, you know, for a book or something like that, which is where that, I mean, basically what you wrote there, that coming from a book. Plus the other thing is you can tell it's ChatGPT because there's so many superlatives in there as big fancy words and all this. Most people don't talk like that. And so you can spot ChatGPT a mile away if you use the straight out of the box. If you do a little teaching, then it will do a much better job of giving you more natural speech.
Yeah, 100%. So this is, like we said, it's the worst it's ever going to get until it attacks. But we won't worry about that for right now, right?
We'll all be ground into dust, and so it won't matter.
Yes, exactly. So I know Tara's freaking out about it. She's going to lock herself in a room with no distractions and try this. I mean, you can dang near have conversations with yourself at this point with this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I won't even go into what some people are doing with AI at this point. So we'll leave it at that. But all right, so here we are. That was our intro on 11 Labs. We're going to be doing much more audio stuff going forward, video stuff. And like I said, maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll, if I have time, I will have built out my chat bot that will create the 5-minute webinars. And then we will see if we can. And we'll probably, again, we record these ahead of time just simply because the lag time and the processing time in the AI can be quite long sometimes. And then, usually you mess it up half a dozen times and you got to start all over and keep going and iterating and stuff like that. But hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we can put together a little project where we can go from idea to writing a script and then being able to put it out as like a 5-minute perfect webinar. And I guess we'd have to also include some video in there, but with the what's the really simple one that Danny likes to use a lot, where it'll go out in video, it will go out to the interwebs and it will just grab a whole bunch of stock videos and pull it in and stick it into your movie. So maybe that's where we go there first on the first step, and then after that we can get into the crazy AI movie making stuff that we're all learning right now as well. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. Just remember, Monday, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern time as of right now is when we go live with our AI stuff. If you want to join us, tell your friends, tell your family, and make sure you join us on this coming Friday.
Yeah, and we'll be back Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific for AI news and other small trainings and stuff. But yeah, when we didn't even get into projects inside of 11 Labs, and that is a whole different thing and kind of a new game changer. So keep your eye out for that in the coming weeks.
And it'll be different the next time we show you probably too.
Yes.
No, what I was gonna say, 11 Labs version 14 will be out by then. So
yeah,
who knows?
Probably.
Okay, all right, we're done here, and we will see you all on Friday.
All right, see you guys.